Hello everyone and welcome back my lovelies, or welcome for the first time. Really happy to have you here and listening to me waffle on for a little while, because that's what I do best. So anyway, there was no plan to this build whatsoever. I sort of absolutely had no idea what to do or where I was going. I wanted to get in on this little container trend that everybody was doing, and so I kind of figured out a close size to what the container size could be. And it just sort of all developed from there, not necessarily looking great to start with. There are many points during this build where I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. It was all just off the top of my head. There was no planning, and I feel like, considering this was just me messing around, just one of those, yes, I have new content. I love having new content when it comes to building, and to be honest, I was actually really excited about this pack. I love all the industrial looking objects, etc. They just really make me want to build other things just that aren't houses. Or, well, to be honest, this is a house, but it doesn't look like a pretty little cottage. So, anyway, carrying on from that, I just randomly got loads of ideas and just sort of shoved them all together in a way. So we start off with this little sort of circular area, and then that develops into an entrance. I decided I didn't want a plain entrance, right at the front of the building, like, hey, here I am, wanted to hide it away, sort of be like, this was made out of the containers. The containers were here first, everything else was just placed around it, and it just kind of happened. And then I end up adding a little container-sized garden. And the fencing, oh my gosh, there's not actually fences. I believe they're in the sculptures area, but the little fence style, I was about to say platforms, they're not platforms, my brain, as per usual, what are they called? The dividers, that's what they are called. I literally paused just so I could think about it, like, just stop recording and think about what you're trying to say. So those dividers, I love the fact they're in 3 different levels, and that was just awesome. To be honest, it was just like I fell in love with these straight away. As much as they're a little bit more like wooden, kind of takes away from that whole idea of my little container industrial style, like straight away. It forms into certainly something a lot more eco-friendly and like gardens everywhere, and it just went crazy. So at that point, I had no idea of names or anything, and then I just thought, oh, let's just stick something round on the top. And so that's what we done. I added the wood style because I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more like it was definitely created, man-made sort of sculpture on the top, and I end up going for a grey colour just to blend it in more with the idea of it being on the docks, etc. And then I noticed the extra roofing with the solar panels, and I fell in love with just putting that there. It was just sort of, like I said, there was no plan. I was just like looking at all the different things that came with this pack, and I was like, oh, let's add this, and I'll just add that there, and just looking at the objects gave me ideas rather than necessarily relying on myself to find inspiration somewhere. It all just came from the actual pack itself. So I start with decorating the exterior, and when I'm finished with the exterior, at one point I kind of feel like it's extremely lacking. And as much as I've got all these awesome ideas and they've come together amazingly, it just seemed like it wasn't one building, it was just very plain and boring still. We're not actually at that point, and I'm at this point where I'm like really excited and coming up with loads of ideas and want to start adding the plants in, etc., to try and make it a little bit more of a green area. And this little bit here that we started with the greenery, absolutely love it. I loved looking at the when I was going through the stuff and you had the gateway. I fell in love with it when I first looked at it. I was like, I've got to use this for something. And that was basically the whole idea of this little garden that I added on top. I just saw these gates and I wanted to use them. So at this little bit is kind of annoying in a way that is felt so separate from the rest of the build for so long. It just didn't seem to fit in. And as you can tell, I went from the basement up. This is because it's the only way I find to get around the the objects being along the wall so it's against it, but with the foundation so it's not floating like, hey, I'm floating around and just chilling in space. So it kind of just started developing random ideas and putting things in places. There was, like I've said, no plan whatsoever, had no idea what on earth I was doing here. And I just kept getting all crazy about the new objects. And I did use other ones as well. I believe this only used 3 packs in the end, so I'm quite proud of that. The second time in a row as well. So that is an real accomplishment, especially for me. So the interior was a struggle, as per usual. I didn't have a clue what to do, and as you can see straight away, I've gone in and just made all the walls the same. Really wanted to focus on the new pack, and everything just looks so plain and boring to start with, and it takes a bit for me to figure out what to do with it. So I started adding curtains, etc., but it seemed so lifeless. It didn't even seem like it was lived in. I didn't have a clue like what to do. A little bit disappointed that we didn't get any little shelving cabinets, etc., with our new pack, especially for the counters. That's what I meant when I said shelving originally. I mean, we could have had like some sort of awesome recycled thing with like the little side table that has the patterns on the top. That would have been awesome, putting that on a counter and just making it look maybe recycled, or giving it the little stripes. Like even in this wall, you've got the different sort of coloured woods, etc., even though it's all grey. You could have it like natural coloured, and then that would look like you've basically got a whole load of wood and shoved it together. But that would have been awesome. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, where's my counter? Again, this is what happened with Island Living, and it was something that I was quite frustrated with, and we did get counters with Island Living eventually. But why have we not got them again? Did you just forget? I mean, it's okay to forget, but it's frustrating. So, absolutely. Anyway, just like watching this video, I'm doing this recording, I'm getting excited because it reminded me. The toddler bed, oh my gosh, I would live for that thing. Like, this was not meant to be a house for a family, but I was like, I'm going to squeeze in another bedroom because that bed is gorgeous. I love it. I live for it. I want it. So anyway, just add in a little extra, and one thing I didn't fit in that I absolutely loved was the new doll's house. I attempted to not necessarily tempted, I definitely thought about putting it elsewhere, putting it in outside, having like a little play area, and making sure I sort of put it under this little bit, just because, you know, cardboard gets wet, it goes soggy, and you can imagine a child then like, what's happened to my doll's house? So anyway, I actually didn't use it. I couldn't find anywhere to put it, and to be honest, I wasn't actually planning at this point to have a family in the house straight away. So then I kind of start to develop ideas for the exterior, especially on top of the containers. I had a relative idea of what I wanted to do at the top, especially with the windows that are sort of protruding, and that was going to be my office area. And of course, the most important thing was making sure the Sims didn't bump their head on that little fixture that comes down. So I do pop in and out of live on this just because I weren't sure. For once in my life, I just didn't have a clue. It was like, if they're gonna like chop their heads off and still walk through, maybe I should rethink this, because it looked really low. So bedroom, again, just nice and simple, and as you can tell, I wasn't really thinking about decorating at this point. I kind of thought about basics, what will I put where, and it actually seemed like I had a bit too much space for what I wanted. Right back at the beginning, I wanted to put in stairs that would have come out by the office area, and I feel like maybe I should have started with that, but then again I remembered that we now had ladders from the pack, whichever, not from the pack. Oh my gosh, but anyway, we got base game ladders, and so I was like, I want to use ladders, and I want to kind of make them walk around in circles to get to anywhere. So this build does have 2 exterior places that link together that go across the blue and the yellow container. Almost forgot the word, I was about to say metal thingy, but you never know, you might have actually understood what I meant. So for that, I end up putting a fence in between the two distinctive areas, and I kind of liked the idea because then I had an awesome like ladder entrance to one and then just a little table area for the other where the door leads to it. So at this point I was pretty sure I was finished, and then I started adding fencing. I kind of liked the idea of leaving it quite open, sort of seemed like it wasn't particularly lived in, but it just didn't seem finished. So I went crazy on the exterior. I completely forgot about the debug objects, and they kind of made this build in the end, especially in specific places. I kind of went to go and add lots of flowers, etc., around the exterior, like I like to. Oh my gosh, so many likes, ifs and buts. My school teacher would not like that. And I said it again. So anyway, so I kind of carried on with this idea of it being a dockside and created it, trying to make it a little bit more dystopian. Oh, that was a big word for me, guys. You should give me a round of applause. So I wanted to stick with that style more than all of these green stuff. As you can tell, this little fencing at the top, it was horrible. It just did not work as much as I wanted it to. And then obviously the flowers were all dead. Yeah, dead flowers as we put them on the floor. So all of the flowers, I had to really think about where to position them and where to put them. Love the idea of creating like a little alcove underneath the office where it kind of goes across. And I kind of decide against that. I went for a sort of completely weird idea for me, which is that I decided I wanted it to look like sort of like a little street. So I turned it into sort of like it was a little bus stop, to be honest. That was my idea, that I could turn it into a bus stop and add other things like the little mailbox, etc., that were already there, and kind of make it look like that little thing that I thought was out of place earlier, that I forgot what it was called, like the little awning, said that weirdly, that was like a little place to stop and wait for your bus, etc. And then when I found these railways, like tracks, they made the build. Honestly, I got so excited after that. I was like, I can put it through here and make it look like it's been repurposed into a little garden selling area, and that was it. I kind of felt like this build was actually looking like one rather than lots of separate things all placed elsewhere and kind of random as hell. So I carry on, and the biggest trouble I had was properly decorating the upper part of the two containers, the orange and the green one that we're going right into here. Had absolutely no idea what to do. Wanted to add flowers, didn't have a clue how to make them look or where they should go. And then I remembered that actually I wanted to put a bar in down there somewhere. You know, I was going to add it onto the kitchen and then move the dining room sort of into that entrance hall. And then finally it was just like it started to come together, the magic happened. Somehow, somewhere, somebody was like, wait, I can help. Just use your brain and think about what you wanted earlier. And unfortunately we had the problem with some of the flowers again right at the end, so they turn it into a little sitting area. It's all kind of small and cozy without being so confined. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're not too sure, like many people, about the eco living, honestly, for building, I love the idea. I love the whole style that it gives for being able to create this sort of environmentally friendly idea, but it's also going to be great for doing industrial builds. I've done it before. I've tried to do the sort of like it's a conversion out of a warehouse idea. Don't have a video for that, but it was a long time ago and I absolutely love doing that. These extra build bits are certainly going to make a difference when it comes to these types of builds. As for gameplay, I really enjoyed the gameplay as well. It confused me a little bit to start with, but once I engaged my brain, things actually started to make a little bit more sense. So guys, stay awesome, stay amazing, be kind to each other, and keep simming.